Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And we've had a good storm this week. It really had some moisture. Notice it didn't run very much. It mainly soaked right in. What that means is the ground is bone dry. I mean, just crusty. In fact, I've planted probably 50 feet of hedgerows, different kinds of plants along a fence line, trying to soften it up, 3, 5 plants at a time, probably 20 different plants. And every single hole, and these were larger plants, 5-gallon plants. The hole was probably 18 inches deep, dry from the top of the surface all the way down. I mean, like bone dry, crusty. It was hard to dig a couple of those, and it was pretty good soil. So one thing, before you let your landscaper, your gardener, power down your irrigation for the year, for the winter, before you let them disconnect that backflow preventer or blow out your lines, you might dig a test hole. Just see how dry your soil is. If it's really dry at the base of a tree or a shrub or in a garden, before they turn that thing off, I would run a double cycle. Really soak those plants. You want your plants to be hydrated, to be moist going into the winter months. Actually, a cold plant, if you get down to 20s, teens, your plants do not like to be dry. They want to be moist, hydrated. That's what gets them through a real cold spell. That keeps the antifreeze that's within the structure of that plant flowing so it can protect the plant. When a plant gets dry, it can't move that antifreeze back and forth in its structure, and then we get what's called winter burn or winter kill. So the tops of those plants, the tips of those branches will die. So keep them moist. Really check it. It was stunning how dry the soil was. Even after that storm, I planted right after that storm that came through. When was that? Tuesday or Wednesday night. Seemed like we got a lot of moisture. The ground was sort of wet, but I think the ground was so dry, we just didn't get enough moisture to really make a difference. So if you're thinking in terms of rain, 1 inch of rain will penetrate about 6 inches of soil. So if you've got a root ball that's 18 inches deep, I was planting 5-gallon plants, digging a hole, getting it down in there, amending it. I did all the stuff you need to do, but that it would have taken 3 inches of rain, a slow drizzle. If you get 3 inches of rain all at once, it just flows and runs downhill. It doesn't have time to soak in. This last rain wasn't nearly enough to make any difference. And so you might want to just check, test. The easiest way to check your gardens, take a shovel, especially a women's shovel, that narrower, it's like 8 inches wide instead of that 10 or 12 inches wide. Just take a smaller shovel and something with a long handle. Put your weight on it, lift up the soil, and take a look. See how dry it is. You can tell very, very quickly. That's one thing that was stunning in my own gardens. That and at the garden center. So I'm here in Prescott. Our family owns Waters Garden Center. I've been around for a lot of years, and a lot of customers are coming in, calling, and they're going, "What happened? My crepe myrtles, it was looking so good." Another one was lilacs. My lilacs, they looked so good. Are they dead? And these poor Southern Cal desert tropical folks, they've never seen 4 seasons. They don't know what a deciduous tree is. Deciduous loses its leaves. They just have never seen this process. It's like a phenomenon. It's like they're walking on the moon. They've never seen any of this before. And so your plants are fine. It's perfectly normal for them to turn color, to drop their leaves, and just to be bare. I mean, within the next month, within the next storm that comes through, the next windstorm or whatever happens here, all the leaves are going to be off those plants, off your maples, off your silverberry, off your service berries, off your fruit trees, off your crepe myrtles and lilacs and forsythias. You can go right down the line. This is why it's so important to have a good, strong foundation of evergreens. Evergreens being either broadleaf evergreens like red tip photinia, privets, euonymus. There's a whole series of shrubby kind of things. They have a leaf, but they're kind of waxy, and they hold their leaves right through winter. Indian hawthorn is a famous one. And so those things will carry you, or the more traditional thinking that most people think of, a spruce tree like a Colorado spruce, or a pine like ponderosas or pinyon pines, Austrian pines. These are all needly kind of plants, conifers. And so they will keep you going through the winter months. And so you need a good, strong foundation of those. If you don't have enough, your yard can look really bare. Oh my gosh. It can look stark. Does anyone live there? Hello, can you turn the lights on? Who's there? It can really look barren. So you need to this is a good time to spot those and space them out. You don't need the whole yard to be evergreens. You just need 20, 30% of the yard to be the focal point now. What happens is those plants, your Russian sage and salvias, they defoliate, and you don't even see them in the yard. So, but your eye is naturally drawn now from those purple spiky Russian sage. Now they're carried over towards that beautiful spruce tree or silver hoop-sized spruce, or this dark, rich green Oregon green pine. These are stunning, striking plants that really glow in the yard through winter. They get shown up in the summer seasons because of all the flowers. And so this is their time to take center stage. And so don't worry about your other plants that have lost their leaves. It's perfectly normal. Keep them moist. Water them a couple times a month, even without leaves. That'll keep them healthy, and they're going to set their buds. In fact, I was looking at my lilacs. It's kind of funny. This week, I have an ever-blooming called Bloomerang lilac. It's in bloom this week. Go figure. The leaves are burning off and the flowers are opening up. That's the beauty of a bloomerang lilac. It keeps repeating over and over. It's bloomed. This is its third or fourth time. I don't know. This bloomed this year. It's kind of like a rose. A rose will often bloom and take a rest, bloom again, take a rest. That's ever-blooming roses. That's what they do. This is an ever-blooming lilac. The lilacs your grandparents grew, those are your common lilacs or Mr. Lincoln lilacs. They're usually purple, and they bloom once. Stunning. Fragrant. Oh, my goodness. Gorgeous in the spring, and then they're just green. They don't bloom again. Then they have this beautiful gold, kind of aspen gold color in fall. Then they drop their leaves, which mine have dropped their leaves. And now when you look at the tips, there's these big purple buds out on the ends of the branches. Those are the flowers that will bloom, usually in March or April, depending on your elevation. So it's okay. It's not dead. Don't dig it up. Give it a chance. The way you really want to check it, you can walk out, and I'll give you a quick test. You can walk out in your yard and tell if any plant is dead or alive simply with these two things. One, take your hand and just take one of the smaller branches, twigs, and bend it. If it's pliable, it's alive. Don't worry about it. Or you can take your thumbnail and scrape the bark off, especially towards the end where the bark is real thin. Scrape it off, and if it's green, if the color is green underneath that bark, that plant is very much alive. Don't worry about it. Many plants, like your lantanas, there's a Miss Huff lantana. There's some perennial varieties of lantana. They really got burned back this week. There's not one living thing left looking on it. That particular kind of plant is a true perennial. It will hibernate under the ground. Your gaillardias, echinaceas, lots of different plants will do that. And so if you see that, you scrape your thumb on it, and it's brown underneath, or it's white. That's a dead branch. Doesn't mean the roots are dead. It's just a perennial. It's going to hibernate underground. You can go ahead and cut all that foliage back, the dead stuff, and fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food, and it will come back with a vengeance next late spring, summer. That's when lantanas come back. That's when bird of paradise come back. That's when your Confederate rose or Mishutos hibiscus come back with a vengeance. They hibernate underground and then come back fresh. Every spring they grow again. So just realize, if in doubt, take a picture of the tag or take a picture of the plant. Sometimes it's hard to ID a plant by the twig, by the branch, but we're pretty good at it. We can tell you, oh, no, that one's for sure. That's an annual, won't come back. Or this one, yeah, that's a great one. Fertilize it, nurture it. It'll be back for you next spring. Well, let's take a break and we'll have Lisa Waterslane come in with your garden questions after this.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Some things are just better together.
July is the best time to fertilize with all-purpose plant food from Waters.
But pair the all-purpose with humic acid and it's a 1-2 punch of garden power.
Humic acid gives your soil organic matter that helps plants' roots receive water and nutrients.
So it makes fertilizer work even better.
Like salt and pepper.
Coffee and donuts.
And hey, you and me.
Aw, thanks, Ken.
All-purpose plant food and humic acid better together and only at Waters Gardens. Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, Red Mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm Mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with the Mountain Gardeners. Your host, Ken, and Lisa Lane. Now, the fabulous, the beautiful, great hairdo going, by the way. Good, you've been busy, huh?
Oh, thank you.
Yep. So, gardening questions this week. We've got all kinds of activity going on, and it's fall. Everyone's making the transition.
Right.
They haven't quite gone indoors yet. They're still outdoors.
It's been
picking
nice.
up leaves.
Yeah.
That's been nice. Yeah, one little quick storm, and then it's back. I mean, it just feels good. I've had shorts on.
You don't like to give up your shorts.
I don't. I like my shorts. I don't feel closed in. I'd rather wear a parka with shorts and hiking boots than I would put the jeans on.
Kind of weird because you're always cold, but
nah. But as long as I keep moving, that's a secret to life.
Oh, keep moving. That's the secret. Okay.
What questions you got for us?
All right. Our first question is from Leslie. She says, my roses look a little ragged. Can I trim them back now?
Well, they should have some color on them. So many of the roses still have buds cracking,
ours do.
Some color on the roses. So I would say take time and enjoy those. Don't rush. Everyone wants to rush into winter and kind of clean everything up. That's usually a sign of a nurse, an accountant, a banker, an engineer. They love it clean, neat, orderly, and they want to lock it up. I'm done with this box. I put that on the shelf, and I'm back. I'm going to be inside the workbench and do that now. Generally, we leave our roses alone. Don't be in a rush to prune them. This is hard for our Phoenix folks up from the valleys. They prune their roses back down there in November and December. In the Midwest, they prune them up in November and December, then insulate them with leaves and that kind of stuff. They'll put chicken wire around them and get them to go through the winter that way. Kind of Here, we're so mild, you don't have to do anything with your roses as long as you don't do anything with your roses. So if you don't prune them back, you leave that foliage in mass, it will protect the canes or that graft enough to where you don't have to hardly do anything with them. They'll get a little beat up in January, first part of February. Then in March 1, sometime in March, we clean them up. That's when we do most of our pruning, clean up. We'll fertilize them. We'll spray them for bugs and kind of start the season over. And about 45 days later, almost to the day, they're in full bloom. That'll be around usually Mother's Day, end of April, May, somewhere in there. They start to bloom like crazy, and they don't stop until after that. If you prune them up too much, winter can kill back the canes even more. So you went down to your basic 3 to 5 canes. It's at 3 foot height, knee high. And then all of a sudden winter comes and you're left with this stub in the ground. Or it can actually kill the cane, kill that graft. While the canes are coming out, it kills it. And so that's important for those hybrid teas, floribundas, grandifloras. So I'd say leave them alone. Just enjoy them. You can give them a haircut whenever you want. If you get a wild hair or that That one, it goes back to the original rootstock. It's not even part of the graft. There's a cane that comes below the graft.
Cut
from
that
the
off.
ground. It looks like this gnarly thing, like Little Shop of Horrors, that plant that wants to eat people. It looks like one of those.
Yeah.
You cut those off.
Right.
But that's basic light pruning, haircut maintenance stuff. Do the major stuff in March.
Okay. Next question is from Doug in Prescott Valley. He has a brick walkway, but he still has grass coming up between it. What can he spray this time of year
Sure.
to get rid of that grass?
Yeah, it's actually a challenge. Now, a brick may be warm enough. Probably not. The glyphosates probably aren't going to work. That's your Roundup products. It's just when it's cold, when it's below 50 degrees, it just doesn't work. Plants shut down. They just don't absorb enough of it. I'd go with the Weed Beater Ultra.
Okay.
Is the name. I would use that, and that one does work when it's cold out. It works very effectively. So I'd almost switch over to all the Weed Beater Ultra on most of your weeds. The dandelions are pretty large right now. There's some of your winter weeds. I would encourage folks, we've had so much moisture, so many weeds. If you've been struggling with weeds, come in and get some crabgrass and weed preventer. It's the easiest thing in the world.
It is.
For like $20-$30, it covers like 5,000 square feet for a bag. You put it out there and no weeds. No weeds will come up. I mean, no seed will ever come up. It just keeps it clean. And it's so easy. You got to get it on, though, before these weeds germinate. Once they start coming up,
It's too late.
yeah, that stuff doesn't work. It actually kills the seed, and it doesn't kill weeds. So you can put it around your rosemary and your trees and your roses. Won't affect them. It only keeps the seed from germinating. But you got to put it on strategically before the weeds come.
Right.
We went out in our yards, and we just said, when I'm fertilizing, I'm putting that stuff out because I really hate weeding. It's just an awful, awful job.
A lot of
It's
work.
garden work is what
Right.
it is. Yet they make these fabulous new products that keep them in check. I would encourage Weed Beater Ultra for now,
right
just
now.
to knock it off, and then just put the weed and grass preventer down, and you won't have that problem again. Especially
Will
rock
that work
lawns.
in a brick walkway though? Would
It
that
will,
work?
yeah. You water it in right afterwards. It goes in between the rocks,
Oh, okay.
in between the bricks. Works like magic. You bet.
Okay.
Rock lawns. You always have that fine silt below, just above the
Right.
fabric, and so you get these weeds. The weed and grass,
We'll work on
crabgrass,
that.
and weed preventer keeps that from happening. You just don't have that problem, or greatly reduced.
Right. Our next question is from Angie in Prescott. When is the best time to put out wildflower seed, and does it take a lot of work to get them started?
Yeah, no, it's really easy. Now we just got done with crabgrass and weed preventer, so you don't want to put that down and then put your wildflower
be
seed
bad.
down because it won't come up. It
Right.
it keeps all seed from coming up. It's
Yeah.
indiscriminate. All seed, done.
It doesn't care if it's a weed or a
Right.
flower.
So I've had some customers make mistakes like that in the past.
Right.
You're a little bit early. You could get your seed. You could actually start it. Really about the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, that's your cue to start. In fact, many people give that as gifts, stocking
Yes,
stuffers.
very nice.
You see a lot of folks coming in. They've got a gardening friend or their new house. They'll come in and buy the Arizona selection of seed kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, but then you want some cold to hit that seed. But we don't want birds to eat it. So that's the balance.
It's a dilemma.
It really is. So if you wait until the migration's done, so birds are migrating right now. Might even be a few hummingbirds around. They're hanging on. Let all those southbound birds go. Now all you have are the locals, which is greatly reduced. And then you go out and seed that. And usually I'll buy a bag of mulch. The Waters Premium Mulch. Put my seed in that mulch in a wheelbarrow and turn that in. I create my own hydromulch, and I just spread that out over the yard so I can see where the seed went. It insulates the seed so I get better germination, and it keeps the birds off. It's like a trifecta effect.
Right.
It really does work. But I would say wait until December, January.
Yeah.
And then I would say get your seed down by the latest March, first part of March. It has to have some freeze and thaw for those seed to germinate. If you
Right.
put it wait until spring and it's just warm weather, your germination, you'll come back on, you sold me this seed that doesn't work or it's all weedy or didn't bloom.
Yeah.
That's because they needed cold to crack the hole open on those seeds so they could germinate into the native earth.
Now, you don't have to. Yeah, we do. But it doesn't take a lot of soil prep, does it? I mean, you're basically just kind of loosening up the soil a little bit.
Yeah, I hate to oversimplify. Most folks come in and they go, I'm from Michigan and I just want wildflower seed, and chuck them out there and they will just magically come up and I'll have a prairie. No, it doesn't work that way. Really prep the soil. Let's take a rake off the rock, rake off the roots, the old weeds, and open up the earth so it can receive the soil. That's the gist. Then you want to top dress that over the seed with that mulch. Keep the birds off to increase germination rate. And that's pretty much it. You can water sporadically, although if you time it right, nature usually helps you that time of year. We'll get some key snowstorms that'll help the germination rate. So I would say get the handout. I think it's 10 steps to wildflowers or something. It's free. It's a one-page thing. It's really easy. Just lays it all right out there for you, and it really makes a difference. Look at the Rocky Mountain mix. It is so showy. If you can give it a little bit of care and a little bit of water, wow, it's a really pretty mix.
Right.
The Arizona mix is one that I put together with my buddy up in Colorado. We just took all the Arizona mix. It's showy, but it's much hardier.
It can go with a little bit less water and still look
really
nice.
good. And then if you're just going to re-veg and I want no care and no nothing, we have deer resistive. We've got a drought hardy.
Right.
There's different mixes we've put together for our area, for this region. And anyway, there's wildflowers for you. We're out of time. You're listening to Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners.
You're listening to Ken Lane, a.k.a. the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Garden Center. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain gardens. Oh no! My pine trees look terrible!
Never fear, Plant Protector is here.
Plant Protector? From Waters Garden Center?
My Super Strength Protector destroys pine scale, bark beetle, and aphids. Just water into the soil and your trees are protected from the inside out for the year.
Thank you, Plant Protector.
You can always find Plant Protector at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Hi, Ken, with the plants of the week and our Ivory Feathers pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf pampas grass blends perfectly into landscapes.
In bloom at Waters now, with long stalks of ivory plumes held tall above flowing green foliage that only grows head high.
Much easier to maintain, this crop is the nicest you'll find and only $39.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love ivory grasses, they love to shop.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
If you want to have fun with kids, grandkids, this week for us, grandkids visit, 3 of them. And so I'm going, okay, how do I entertain little kids? So an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. 1-year-old Lisa had they don't want to see me. They don't want to wrestle. They want to pet the dog and hold their whatever. But the boys, oh my gosh, the 8 and 5-year-olds, they are rambunctious and want to garden, want to go out. And so we piled up leaves. And one thing I did, we're done with the pumpkins. So I grow giant pumpkins. So I've got them out in the front yard. So boys, go out in the front yard, get the biggest pumpkin you can find and bring it to the back deck. We're going to smash pumpkins. And you can just see their eyes going, I don't compute. I can't compute. I heard go get pumpkin, but smash pumpkin. I do. Oh, we'll be right back, Pops. And so they run out. It's so big they can't lift it. So they're rolling it through the living room. Luckily, Lisa wasn't watching. So comes through and we take it to the back deck. If you want to have fun with kids, I said, okay, we have a 1.5-story a deck on the back of the house, patio underneath. I said, boys, let's drop this thing off. Guess how many pieces it will break into? And so they're going, really? Oh, that was great. So I'm going, okay, here we go. It broke into 8 pieces. So big chunks are all over the backyard. I'm just going to add them to the compost pile. It's all good. We'll harvest a few seeds for next year. I'll let the rest of it go, but they just thought that was the greatest thing ever. And then, this is great. This is insider tip, grandparenting, kind of like 301, which is what I do. I love having fun. I'm trying to create adventurous, trying to get them away from those screens, get them out in the yard, and just be fresh air, all that. And so I'm trying to create archaeologists, geologists, and you're looking at rocks. So I buried some Indian arrowheads. Shh. It's just between us. Don't tell anyone else, especially my grandkids. You can buy them on Amazon. They're cheap. You get some arrowheads. I got some spearheads. They're a little bit more expensive, but hey, you get a few of those. You bury them underneath rocks or where they can just kind of scratch around and look and find. They found, I think I buried like 100. They found 5. So again, they're only 8 and 5 years old. So, but still, it was like magic going to look for those and finding them. Lots of leaves are blowing around, so it's kind of hard to spot them. So I said, boys, take the blowers. I have 2 18-volt Roby blowers, one for each grandson. I said, here, take these, blow off an area, and look for arrowheads underneath the leaves. They just thought that we get technology and we get to find arrowheads. That's the greatest thing ever. So anyway, we had a great time with that. It was just super. I did have a customer come in this week. They were looking for a very low hedge. I suggested boxwood. They're going, oh, well, can I do some homework and can I look on the internet and just place an order and have it show up? I'm going, well, plants don't work that way. They're extremely seasonal, especially at altitude. If you're at a high elevation, you don't want to plant crepe myrtles and all those summer blooming chase trees, and you don't want to plant those. They just defoliated, and they don't look good this time of year. The ones you want to be planting evergreens this time of year. They've got more antifreeze in them. They look better. You'll remember to water them because they're out there in the yard. You see them. Those are the things you want to be planting. You don't want to plant a bunch of flowers unless they're pansies. There's like a handful you can plant right now in the winter. It's cold every night. So you can go pansies and snapdragons and dusty miller and violas and kales. There's a whole series of things you can plant now, but you don't want to plant zinnias. And if you start doing an internet search, you will get all kinds of crazy advice. Almost none of it correct for this altitude. So really do your homework. And then I would suggest, and you're tuned in here from all over northern Arizona, go to your local nursery. Go to Plant Fair over in Payson. Go over to Christopher's over in the White Mountains. Go up to Warner's in Flagstaff. Come to Waters in Prescott. And ask them, going, hey, I found this. What do you think? Go, well, that one really doesn't grow above 4,000 foot level. It's not going to winter over for you here. But let me show you something that's very similar. So we can show you a companion plant or something that looks like that and help guide you in the right direction so you're not making as many mistakes. Our goal is gardening, you learn by making mistakes. We just want to make sure you're never going backwards. You're always making mistakes going in the right direction, going forward. That's our goal. And so if we have a failure, I personally see that as a failure on my part, because I'm discouraging gardening. It's good to see something slowly die over a year. That's the most torturous thing ever. You can discourage a whole lot of gardeners next generation by doing that. We want successes. Our goals are to have not just selling a plant, but the things that make it really thrive and grow. And so be careful of that internet stuff. That, and these crops are very finite. We grow like 200 forsythia. And when that's over, it's gone. You can't hit a button and create 50 more. Until next year, that crop is gone. So there's this seasonality of crops too. So just kind of a heads up what's going on in the marketplace.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken, with the plants of the week and our plumtastic muley grass.
Glittering clouds of vivid purple plumes emerge in late summer and persist through the end of the year.
It's a natural and showing off all its glory right now at the garden center.
A superb hillside plant, especially when situated so that the plumtastic flowers are backlit by the Arizona sunset, all for just $36.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For people who love plumtastic grass, they love to shop.
Plants are a lot like puppies. They need care, water, and food.
You wouldn't forget to feed your puppies, so don't forget to feed your plants.
Water's 744 all-purpose plant food is a gourmet meal for your plants.
The only food for Arizona plants with the nutrients they need for big blooms, a hefty harvest, and tremendous trees, all naturally.
It's time to feed your plants with 744 all-purpose plant food from Waters Garden Center in Prescott. You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
I'm basically a half artist inside. I mean, I have that bent. And so this is one of my favorite segments because it's that artistry of plants. It's how do you put them all together. We give this segment to Lisa Waters Lane, just so to get that design flair. Otherwise, it all turns out to be, how do I water? How do I prune? Tomatoes, lawn, and it just gets boring. So I like the artistic side of that, and the garden should have a feel to it. And you got the feel, babe.
I don't know.
You're a good designer. You're just a good designer. There you go. I am married to this gal on the other microphone, in case you've just tuned in.
You better be.
So design tips. What you got for us?
Well, this week I thought we'd cover evergreen shrubs.
Good, yeah.
So not necessarily trees, but the shrubs that you can put out in your yard right now.
They're starting to shine right now. They're starting to take center stage.
Yeah, everything else is kind of losing its leaves or has already lost its leaves. So it's a good time to take a look at your yard and go, maybe I do need some evergreens out here, something to give me color year-round instead of just through the growing months.
This is the time when you should spot. Now, a lot of folks go, I can't plant now. They still think they're back in Wisconsin or something. Come on, people. You're in Arizona. You moved here for a reason because it's so nice.
Right.
And your plants love it too. Some of these evergreens, it's actually an ideal time to plant them because you can see where to put them. You can space them out easier. They're not competing with all the other trees and shrubs and blooms.
Right.
So you can get a better feel of proportion out there. So it's easier to space them. And they will actually root through into December. Right. And you'll get better growth next spring by planting in the autumn. So it's a good time to plant evergreens.
It is a good time. The other thing I would recommend, people so many times they come home, they drive into their garage, they park their car, they go into their house, and they never see the front of their house from how their neighbors are seeing
That's true.
it.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to walk up maybe to the end of your driveway and take a good honest look at the front of your house. The other thing you can do is stand inside your house at those windows that are maybe facing the front or the back and look out your windows and go, there's something ugly over there. Maybe I ought to plant something to cover that, or I would like a little more green out here, something to look at in the wintertime when I'm glancing out the windows, sipping my hot toddy, something to give you interest. And the birds love to have those evergreen shrubs out there in the wintertime. So if you want to invite birds into your yard, that's a good way to do that too.
I think at the entrance of a driveway, good place for evergreens.
Oh yeah.
At the front of your house, along that pathway leading to the front door, good places for evergreens. Just outside, as you're looking out from that dining room or living room, that's a great place for a living Christmas tree kind of thing. A nice, a little more formal, catchy, ornamental eye candy out there in the garden where you can decorate it if you want, or just go, God, that just is really pretty. You just admire that because it's like the Lone Ranger out there. It's standing with its foliage on going, look at me, because everyone else went to bed.
Right.
And so they're really good with that. And so these evergreens, they'll go down to minus 20, 30, a spruce or pine down to minus 50 degrees. So they'll handle a cold no problem.
Right.
You just got to put them in the ground. This is a time it's a good time to do that.
Sure. So let's go through some of those evergreen shrubs. I'm going to start with the tall ones first. So this first group are ones that get fairly tall. I'd say 6 foot and above.
Head high and above.
Head high. There you
Got
go.
it.
Head high and above. For you, head high and above.
Okay.
For me,
Okay.
and probably 5 to 6 foot, some wider. First one would be the Hetz Blue Juniper. It's a Hetz, H-E-T-Z. This is a juniper that's very, very attractive. It has kind of a silvery gray foliage to it, and it gets wider than it gets taller. So it gets about 8 foot tall, but it gets about 10 foot wide. So if you've got a wide space, you really want something to fill that with, the Hetz would be a fantastic juniper to go in there.
It's one that's used as a hedge quite often too, a privacy hedge around the hot tub, along that property border. Big space, a big island out there in a larger, let's say, half-acre lot.
Something big out in there.
You need to take up some space because it just looks bare. And junipers, you can't kill a juniper.
It's pretty tough.
They're tough as nails. So, and the Hetz, that's one that's not it's not an allergy juniper. It's
many
just a
people
male.
come in and go, "Oh, I don't want juniper. I have allergies," and I'm like, "Well, not all of them are pollen producing, so don't discount them out of hand."
It's the female. No, it's the male. The males that are the natives, the alligator and shaggy barks.
Right.
The males are the ones that put the pollen on, and they go poof, poosh. I'm going to pollinate the world. Come on, ladies. And then the ladies are the ones that put the berries on. They catch a pollen, and you see the berries. So you can tell male and female. And the junipers, well, they've selected these as being only the females. Yep.
So, no issues
Plants,
with the allergy.
Yeah, the botany, yeah.
Yes, thank you for that lesson.
Or you can just lift their tail.
I don't even want to go
Maybe
there.
not.
Okay, Majestic Beauty Indian Hawthorn. In that hawthorn family, nice, rugged evergreen, really heavy leafed, does put on a bloom in the springtime, and you do get some berries in the fall. But it gets big size. I mean, it can probably get up to 15, 20 feet, would you say?
Optimistic. The wind can hold it down some. I'd say head high to maybe 8 to 10 feet.
Okay.
Especially folks in Kingman, it grows really well up there, those areas. The wind tends to keep it down
lower.
some, yeah.
Okay.
I know the tag says 15 feet, but really think 20%, 25% less than that.
Okay.
Well, realistically. Very fragrant flower. Oh, my goodness. When that goes into bloom, it's going to catch your attention. Hawthorns are really good that way.
Right. So another couple that are kind of a little more in that hedge family would be the waxleaf privet and red-tip photinia or Fraser photinia. Those are other nice evergreens, get 6 foot, 8 foot tall. A lot of people use them as hedges. They can trim them, or you can just let them do their thing and let them go.
Just don't plant them right by the house.
No.
Because they'll take over your house.
Yes, you'll
and
never
you'll just see nothing but bushes. You won't see a house.
Unless you want to, not
that's
ever
true.
see.
If you got a bedroom or something where you just don't want people looking in.
Yeah.
See, pyracantha's that way.
I was just going to mention the
Oh.
Yukon Bell.
Yeah.
Is another very nice, tall, growing evergreen. Pretty because it has that white flower in spring and then those orange berries in the fall.
Yep.
The birds love it.
Orange berries seem to winter better for us than the red berries. So the red berries for your lower elevations, it's okay. The higher elevation, Williams and Flagstaff, and those areas, you definitely need the orange berry. The red one won't go through the winter with you. Even Prescott's borderline sometimes.
Yeah, depending on where you're at. So that's some of the tall ones. Some medium ones, real quick. The one that I really like is the Southern Moon Yetta Hawthorn. There again, the Hawthorn family blooms in the spring. And this one has, I believe, white flowers in the spring.
White with a pink hue,
Yeah, very fragrant, though, still. And I think blueberries in the fall. Blue-colored berries. But very pretty, nice, heavy leaf, waxy leaf. They look like they would not be able to take our heat and the drought, but they do very, very well here.
They like blistering hot.
Yeah.
I mean, put it out in the yard, surround it with a rock lawn. It's happy.
It's happy.
That's where it's going to be. Rock gardens. That's where it's going to be good there.
Very pretty. Oregon Grape Holly is another nice one. There's two kinds of the holly. There's the compact, which stays about 3.5 feet,
knee high,
and then the other one gets 5 to 6 feet in there. Yellow flowers in the spring, and then blueberries in the fall. And I'm quickly running out of time again. So medium gilt-edged silverberries, another one you want to check out. Short ones. Take a look at the red elf pyracantha. Stays about 2 foot tall, red berries, very, very attractive. The Indian Prince hawthorn.
You're in a hawthorn theme.
I am.
There's
There's
they
so
look so
many
good.
of
They're so
them.
great. Yeah,
And they get
they're nice
different
and green.
heights, you know.
It's a
not
rich
just one
green
height.
too. It's not a weak. It's a real rich green.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Check out the Gulf Stream and the Sienna Sunrise Nandinas. Also about 3 foot high, somewhere in there. Emerald Gaiety. That's another one of my favorites. It's a variegated white and green. But in the wintertime, it kind of puts on a pink hue to it. So very pretty out there
Also,
in the
a common
yard.
name is winter creeper. It's for those that might in the Midwest they call it winter creeper.
Do they?
Here they call it euonymus.
I always called it Emerald Gaiety.
Yeah.
Euonymus.
Well, you're not in the Midwest.
Gosh, you're
You
just
grew
I'm
up here in
learning
Prescott.
so much today, Ken.
Well, that's good. And all those can be planted now, and they all
Right.
look good. And some of those smaller ones make great container gardens.
Yes.
So if you've got some fade, all the summer stuff's gone, put a few strategic evergreens with some pansies. Oh, that looks good. You're listening to Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners.
Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Podcast the show, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook and Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com.
Hi, Ken, with the plants of the week and our ivory feathers pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf pampas grass blends perfectly into landscapes.
In bloom at Waters now, with long stalks of ivory plumes held tall above flowing green foliage that only grows head high.
Much easier to maintain, this crop is the nicest you'll find and only $39.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love ivory grasses, they love to shop.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our little Janie Gara.
Little Janie is a charmer with flowers that float above this 15-inch plant.
The fluorescent pink flowers will wow the hummingbirds with Janie's charm as well.
Hummingbirds throughout the neighborhood will visit your plants. They're just so popular and only $14.
She thrives in hot, dry gardens and only found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Where people who love their native plants to be beautiful and hassle-free, they love to shop.
Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
Well, the Halloween season is over, and we're entering the Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, all those holidays between now and the end of the year. And it is a fun time. We're just 2 weeks away from the first Christmas trees coming in. So the cut trees, we sell cut trees here at Waters Garden Center. We've been doing it for many, many decades. But mainly we're famous. We sell more living Christmas trees. That is, you use it in your house for the decorations, and then you go plant it after the holiday celebrations are over. And so I thought I would just go over what are the top 5. Maybe there's more than 5. We'll see how many I can go down the line with. Evergreens you can use as holiday decor either inside or outside, and that thrive in the mountains of Arizona. This would be all elevations, probably from 4,000 foot, high 3,000s, the Skull Valley, Kirklands, those areas, all the way up to Highland Pines, Williams, Flagstaff, White Mountains, and everything in between. They'll take the sun, they'll take the wind. Evergreens, the beauty of evergreens, this is conifers, things with a needle. The beauty with those is that they're typically waxy leafed. They're very efficient on their water use, which makes them very tough. That's why we have so many evergreen forests here. We've got juniper forest and ponderosa forest and pinyon pines all over the place. That's because they thrive in this dry, high altitude, kind of bright days, cold nights. They thrive in this kind of weather. They also prefer to be planted in this kind of weather. They will adapt better by planting them in the fall or autumn, now through the end of the year, than they are in a spring or summer kind of planting. So there's more popular at that time, but I actually have more choices to pick from this time of year. So you've got more evergreens, mainly because we're front-loading, getting ready for the holidays. We are selling, many garden centers will sell more living trees than we will cut trees. And all of us, we're all friends. In fact, we buy from the same farm, and we share the same truck. We just offload it at all of our nurseries. So Plant Fair, usually it's Christopher's in White Mountains, then Plant Fair in Payson, then it's Waters in Prescott. We just make this rotation route. But each one of us, we're all friends. We sell more living trees, truly, than we do cut trees because of the tradition of what's going on. So anyway, what are the top living Christmas trees? What are the top 5 evergreens? These are big, showy, usually multi-layered, single trunk, single stem branching going up. And the number one seller by far, number one, is the Colorado spruce or the variation thereof. So Colorado spruce, this is a big trunk. It grows easily 40, 50 feet tall. Big swooping branches coming out to about 15, 18 feet wide. Just has this beautiful, many folks that are new to the area, they're not used to seeing evergreens. They go, oh, I like the one that looks like a Christmas tree. They're always describing the Colorado spruce. Now, what we've done is we've figured out how to graft a Colorado spruce and get a more robust, get a brighter, get a better, get a hybrid of this same tree. And so if you take a certain cutting of a Colorado spruce and you graft it onto a miniature rootstock, what you come up with is a crazy blue, like silver blue spruce that doesn't get very tall. It only gets up mid-teens, so 15 to 18 feet tall, and much narrow. It looks like a Colorado spruce, but now it fits in a small yard. This is called a Fat Albert spruce. They're very pretty. I haven't looked to see which one I sell more of. I probably sell more Fat Alberts. It just depends. If you've got a big yard, you want a big tree, you go for Colorado spruce. If you got a small yard, you typically go for the Fat Albert spruce. It just varies. These are slow-growing plants. Another one that's sort of like that is a special graft. We've created this. You take a certain cutting, put it on a different kind of rootstock, and they're related. So we're not taking different DNAs. They're all the same plant, but we're modifying them by what we graft onto certain kinds of roots. We come up with a hoopsi spruce. Hoopsi, Hoopsi, hoopsi spruce. It's a Colorado spruce. It grows as big as a Colorado spruce, but it is 3 times the intensity. This plant virtually glows in the dark. It is so bright. It's just really silver blue color. It's really intense. It's like a Toyota Corolla with its headlights on. It's silver color. I mean, it's crazy how bright this thing is. It's stunning. And when you put Christmas lights on it, little bright lights, either colored or clear, it just glows. It's so pretty. And there's 2 pine trees that are better here. Now we've got ponderosa pines. We have pinyon pines. These are the native varieties of pines. But a ponderosa, truly, when you're planting that, what you end up with is a trunk in the yard. All the foliage is way up there. None of it goes to the ground. A better alternative to a ponderosa pine is an Austrian pine. It's a long-needled pine, rich green, very much like a ponderosa, but it holds that foliage right to the ground. It has that perfect shape, the nice swooping branches, has much more formal or better looking in a landscape, especially if you've got rock lawns. It's also not nearly as trashy. Many ponderosas, they're always throwing off needles. I mean, just constantly. They'll bury you. If you sit there very long, you're going to get a needle or a pine cone hitting you in the head. Austrian pines don't do that. This is a tall tree, 30, 35 feet tall, probably 10 to 12 feet wide. So beautiful pine tree. One that's like that, that's dwarfed, is the Oregon green pine. This is a richer green, has denser needle structure, and a little bit shorter needle. So an Austrian pine has a 4 or 5 inch needle. An Oregon green has maybe a 3 inch long needle. It's it's kind of chubby looking. It's very pretty. Has an interesting texture. When you look at them, you can tell, that one's different from that one. They're both pine trees. They're from the same genus, but how they grow is a little bit different. And it's dwarfed. It's half the size of an Austrian pine. So those are good choices. If you're thinking about a native, a ponderosa pine, or a pinyon pine. Pinyons specifically. Pinyons have a real problem with scale here. So there's this pest that gets on if you have a native pinyon pine tree, you are going to need to treat this. You need to treat it this fall with a tree and shrub plant protector. It keeps the scale at bay, and you do this in the fall. You fertilize it, put that plant protector on it, and it gets rid of the scale. You'll be doing this every year for as long as you live in that house. But there is a variety that doesn't get the scale. And so your single-leafed pinyon pine, that's the one they get the pinyon pine nuts from in production, has a bluer tinge to it, doesn't get as large, it's more robust, and mainly it doesn't get the scale. But it's equally as hardy to our local native pinyon pine that grows here. So just some insider tracks. And then one of my favorite pine trees. It truly is beautiful. You can't look at this tree and go by it without touching it, stroking it. It's so soft. It's called a Vanderwolf pine. We've got some stunning specimens that came in. They're above head high. They're really pretty. But each needle, so it's got a pine needle about 5 inches long, but each needle on the top of it, it's blue. On the bottom, it's silver. So you get this blue, silver. It almost flutters in the wind. It's very striking. Very robust. If you're going to kill this plant, it will be you overwatered it. Plant down and dirty. That's it. It died. You overwatered it. That's it. It wasn't a bad tree. You overwatered it. That's what it just really is. Drought tough. Just really robust. No real pests come after it. It's just a really tough little plant here, and it doesn't get very big. So it only gets maybe in the high teens, narrow. Maybe 6-8 feet wide, and a beautiful central trunk with branches coming off. It's just pretty. Vanderwolf pine. Kind of unusual how to pronounce it, but Vanderwolf pine, Austrian pine, Green Mountain pine. You've got Colorado spruce, Fat Albert spruce, hoop-size spruce, and that's more than 5, and there's more choices than that. This is a good time if you need more evergreens in the yard. This is a tremendous time to be planting them in your yard.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener. If life is a bowl of cherries, why not make them the biggest, sweetest cherries ever?
Waters Garden Center is super excited to introduce our new organic fruit and vegetable plant food.
This fertilizer has the bonus of added calcium that gives fruit trees and veggies an extra boost to produce healthy, abundant crops.
Feed your plants now to help them thrive and grow more fruits than ever. And just $27 for a 20-pound bag.
Safe, natural, organic fruit and vegetable plant food only at Waters Garden Center. Oh no! My pine trees look terrible.
Never fear, Plant Protector is here.
Plant Protector? From Waters Garden Center?
My Super Strength Protector destroys pine scale, bark beetle, and aphids. Just water into the soil and your trees are protected from the inside out for the year.
Thank you, Plant Protector.
You can always find Plant Protector at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
You've tuned in to The Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
This week's garden column was on a tough little houseplant. So Lisa and I travel quite a bit. And so we love seeing grandkids. We like to travel. That's one of our hobbies. We've got a houseboat we go to pretty often on the lake. We'd like to get away. It's our way of decompressing. We live a very high-stressed life. In fact, I think our house sitter lives at our house more than we do. So we're always working, it seems like. We're running companies. We're here. We work together. It's a mom-and-pop operation. And if someone doesn't show up for work that day, that's our job for the day. And then you work at the end of the night. You're getting your marketing, your billing, all that stuff. You folks that have small business, you know what that's all about. We're no different. We put on a big show, but really it's just us and maybe 20, not even that, maybe 15 other employees. And we just like plants. We like connecting plants and people together. And so we're busy. So we've got to have plants that are just tough as nails. You folks that love RVing, you love cruise ships, you like to go travel and see the kids. You know how difficult it can be to keep your houseplants alive. Outdoors, it's easy. Clocks. I mean, computers were created so man can run irrigation clocks. But inside, you can't very well have a drip irrigation system inside. There are some little tricks. I mean, there's some things you can do to, gather them up in the bathroom because it's more humid. Put them all in the tub. Put an inch of water at the base. Just keep them together. There's some tricks like that. There's some special watering devices. We have all of those at the garden center. There's globes. There's little ceramic wicks that come through. We've got all those. But bottom line, what Lisa and I do, we just have really tough plants. And one of our plants that we just dearly love, our go-to, we've got way more than one, probably one in every room, is a ZZ plant. ZZ. So Z is in, I think it's called Zanzibar Gem. No, that's its common name. I can't pronounce the Latin name, but it's ZZ plant because it's got two Z's in the name. Anyway, that's it. It's a beautiful green, thick, waxy leafed plant. You can neglect this thing. I mean, you're watering it maybe once a month in the winter. No more than twice a month, really less than that, even in the summer, the growing season. You can really neglect. You can go on that cruise for a month. Come back, the ZZ plant, it'll still be alive. They're a little bit more expensive, you'll find, at the garden centers, at your nursery, because they're slow growing, which is beautiful. I mean, that's one, we don't have to maintain it a lot. Just water it every once in a while, fertilize a little bit, and watch it grow. It just always looks good there. Now, we've got a whole series of cacti and succulents and all these other kinds of plants, but this looks like a houseplant. It's got a leaf to it, not a needle. Not a pad. It's got an actual, it looks like a houseplant. But the stems are very chubby, very thick. They hold moisture in the stems. They hold moisture in the leaves. And I believe that particular plant is a rhizome, so it's got very fleshy, tuberous type of roots. So it just holds moisture. It's a great little plant. And then at the very end of that article, I put a Pinterest board of all the other tough plants that we have. A lot of them were at our house. Pictures of or something I found on Pinterest that here, create a board for tough, indestructible houseplants. If that's of interest for you, if that's something that you just want you're tired of struggling houseplants, take a look. You can go to watersgardencenter.com, look under blog. It'll be the very first post. That article's right there. It's got a link to the Pinterest board. And at the very top of the website, watersgardencenter.com, you'll see a Pinterest icon. It won't take you right to that board, but it'll take you to our Pinterest page, and then look for indestructible houseplants, and you can get the list for your own use as well. Of course, we'd always love to see you come to the garden center and help give you the grand tour here as well. That's even better. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. We love talking and helping fans of the show. Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, Red Mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm Mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
Hi, Lisa with the finds of the week and our Forester feathergrass.
Dramatic bronze flower spikes start blooming in early summer and don't stop until well into next year.
The flowers are so light and airy, it's often referred to as feathergrass.
Growing to just hip-high, this dainty grass shows off enough to make a designer statement without being invasive, all for under $30.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love really pretty grass, they love to shop. If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.